e whau e kuopulonga. Tapu mo haa mohe ofo. Pea tapu mo tau ana. Kai ata ke liatu he. Ai fohe tupu a o hi fofua. He kuo efi ai tulope i he kufia fia.
Maloi Lele. On July 18, 1993, an historic event of major significance occurred during the anniversary of Hawaii's Polynesian Cultural Center. His Majesty King Taufa'ahau Tupou IV of Tonga visited Hawaii and bestowed an ancient chiefly title, Mafifakapotu, upon the president of the Polynesian Cultural Center, Lester Moore.
The King's gracious gesture both honors us and humbles us, because even as it validates all that we now do in the center, it is also a challenge, a royal challenge, to ensure that we continue to maintain the integrity of all of our cultural presentations and all of our activities. It is also a challenge to enlarge the spirit of the Polynesian Cultural Center, a spirit that unites, binds the people with dignity, love, and understanding.
President Moore presides over the 42-acre cultural center dedicated to preserve and portray Polynesian cultures and to provide job opportunities, especially for Polynesian students attending Brigham Young University in Hawaii. The investiture of the title was accomplished in a royal Kava ceremony, the first time a Tongan monarch has bestowed a title upon a foreigner on foreign soil. It was a rare display of a sacred part of Tongan culture. In another significant gesture, His Majesty requested that Whaivaola Eric Shumway, academic vice president at BYU Hawaii, the only other Caucasian foreigner to hold a chiefly Tongan title, give the ceremonial oration during the investiture, an oration which calls for metaphysical and formulaic use of the high language. Whaivaola, Dr. Shumway, suggests other significant aspects of the royal visit.
I think there were many things that made this a very profound cultural experience, particularly in the way it united the Tongan community in celebrating their king. Also, the fact that His Majesty requested that students at BYU Hawaii perform some of the ceremonial functions in the Royal Kava Circle. This is a classic example of culture education and transmission. And finally, His Royal Majesty bestowed a high chiefly title, Mafifakapotu, upon President Lester Moore of the Polynesian Cultural Center. Mafifakapotu is one of the high-ranking talking chiefs among the attendants of Tungi, the representative title of the royal dynasty Ha'atakalawa, a title that His Majesty himself holds.
Finally, to appreciate the full significance of this day, one must first know something of the history of the Royal House of Tonga, the only remaining monarchy in Polynesia. The first kings of Tonga appeared as early as 900 AD, the Tu'itonga. By 1400, a second royal dynasty was created, the Tu'iha'atakalaua. By 1610, the third and most powerful line of kings emerged, the Tu'ikanokupolu. All these royal lines continued into the 19th century. The 19th Tu'ikanokupolu was Taufa'ahau, who became known as King George I, ruling in Tonga for 48 years until 1893. A devout Christian, Taufa'ahau Tupou I united all the Tongan islands under his leadership, freed the commoners from bondage to the chiefs, and granted a constitution in 1875, thus becoming the father of modern Tonga. Unlike other Polynesian leaders, he was able to steer a political course that kept Tonga for Tongans, avoiding the specter of annexation to foreign powers. When pressed by some of his people to yield to a particular foreign country, the king declared in a sweeping gesture, "We will give Tonga only to God." Hence the Tongan national motto, "God and Tonga are my inheritance," imprinted on the modern Tongan seal. King Tupou II, great-grandson of King Tupou I, acceded to the throne in 1893. Suave and sociable, he married Lavinia Veiongo, the great-granddaughter of Laufilitonga, the last of the Tuitonga royal line. This union produced Salote Mafileo Pilolevu, heir to the Tongan throne through two royal lines, and destined to be one of the most beloved personalities and leaders in the world. In 1917, Salote Pilolevu married Tungi Mailefihi, direct descendant of the Ha'atakalaua royal line. Well educated and deeply immersed in Tongan history and traditions, Salote was crowned in 1918 to reign for 47 years. Salote's union with Tungi produced 3 children in whom all 3 royal lines come together. The youngest son, Taufa'ahau, passed away in childhood. In 1947, Queen Salote presided over the double wedding of her sons Prince Taufa'ahau and Prince Fatafehi with Halaivalu Mata'aho and Melinaite Tupou Moheofo at the palace. Besides being involved in matters of state, Queen Salote became the foremost poet and genealogist in her nation, taking pains to gather, teach, and preserve the very best Tongan traditions and customs. Salote encouraged the arts in ways that made dancing and singing an enduring part of the Tongan nature. She espoused the enduring love of being Tongan in her subjects. During her reign, the palace grounds and the surrounding compounds became the center of cultural activities. Tall, majestic, and gracious, Queen Salote was more than a superb poet and statesman. She was preeminently a mother and grandmother. Clearly, Queen Salote was beloved among her own people. But when was it she captured the imagination and the hearts of the world? It was in London during the coronation ceremonies of Queen Elizabeth II of England. Tens of thousands lined the streets to see the parade of monarchs from around the world. Unfortunately, it was a wet and rainy day, and the royal carriages were covered for the protection of the visiting kings and queens of the world. But not Queen Salote's carriage. She refused to cover up, explaining that if the people could get wet in honor of England's queen, so could she. For in the Tongan custom, one would never seek one's own comfort in the presence of majesty. Queen Elizabeth returned the favor in a royal visit to Tonga in 1953. When Queen Salote passed away in 1965, the world mourned, but the legacy continues. One of the most important parts of this legacy is in the person of her eldest son, Taufa'ahau Tupou IV, crowned on July 4, 1967. The rightful heir to each of Tonga's royal titles, Taufa'ahau is a devout Christian and a devoted husband and father.
Ahoy tuwe, ahoy mababa, ihe koroa, kuo whakakoroa aki e hamo he ofo, ai koro whakapolinisia. Ko hai haloto e tai fia.
In the preparation for the great day, the first crucial detail was to secure 3 large Kava plants of ceremonial quality. Suitable plants are found on the island of Molokai, on the farm of Vili Faileha, a Tongan immigrant of several years. The search for the appropriate Kava plants was conducted by Manasenau, cultural specialist at the Polynesian Cultural Center and close relative of the king. Dressed in the ceremonial waist mat, he visits the Kava farm.
Pai poke ki vai nga ko ni na kai te amana ke ki ta ya o ki tu nga ko ni he a honi ko ke pehe ke a nga ki he tau tamatui ka ki ha te amana ke ya te nga ya ki ai tu e sa hi o yo hi o yo hi o yo hi o yo okay.
The Kava plants now safely flown to Oahu from Molokai. Takapu, the king's own talking chief, instructs Tongan students at BYU Hawaii in the ceremonial functions of the Kava circle. Takapu, who presides over ceremonies at the palace in Tonga, was sent by His Majesty to teach the students correct protocol for the event. Assisted by Telanisi Ha'amango, Takapu explains here the serving function, the importance of details such as filling the Kava cup, correct posture, and a dignified bearing.
Ko me ai o ko kore atu ai ke mo ai me a koe nia ke mahino ki ai ko ta mai ki poto ki moto ko ta mai ki tonu e fonua fai fatongia mari e pe hange e fai e fa na ko nia po ki tai kere ko ta mi pe ki fa na mo nu ia he na mo ui he tai mi pe he ni he kangalo ha me aia o ku ki ta fulu I maani oni pe kai ke ta.
As His Majesty arrives in Honolulu, Polynesian Cultural Center President Lester Moore is the first to pay his respects. He is joined by representatives of the center's island cultures who offer traditional songs and chants of welcome. Final preparation on the morning of the celebration included bringing in 9 large pigs, setting up tents and chairs for distinguished guests, and of course, decorating the royal shelter in the Kava circle. Tongans from the community donate their time and their mats and tapa. Under the watchful eye of Takapu, Tonga students set the 9 huge pigs within the circle. The pigs are ceremonially prepared, their feet and snouts wrapped in banana leaves and laid on their backs, a symbol of the people's obeisance to the king. Besides the large whole pigs, 2 other items of ceremonial significance are arrayed in the circle: the Kava plants, unifying symbol of the Tongan society, and regal mats and tapa cloths, representing the finest and most precious workmanship of the Tongan women, fit for a king. Motuapuaka and Takapu, the king's talking chiefs, await the arrival of the king, while Tongan students of Brigham Young University haul in on a litter the featured Kava plant, or Kava toho. Her Royal Highness Princess Salo Te Pilolevu, the king's only daughter, comments on the significance of student involvement.
I feel that it is time for students outside of Tonga, not only for Tongan students, but for any student who is interested in Polynesian culture, to actually witness it. It will be the first time that my father has ever attended such a ceremony outside of Tonga.
The hour approaches for the king's arrival. Whaivaola gives a final explanation.
The highest talking chief in all of Tonga. Takapu is the talking chief and the attendant to the king in the palace. Invested in these 2 talking chiefs are the knowledge, the ceremonies, the protocol of the royal Kava circle. Motuapuaka will be guiding all of the ceremonies for today, and he will give explicit orders regarding every detail of this Kava ceremony and the presentation of the gifts of food from President Lester Moore, who will be invested with Mafifakapotu.
The Hawaiian people as hosts are the first to greet the king as he arrives in Laie. Laie's multicultural community of some 5,000 people from all over the Pacific, Asia, and mainland United States comes together in welcoming the king with cries of the traditional Tongan call to royalty. At the entryway to the BYU Hawaii campus, Hawaiian students perform a traditional kahiko to the king. Maori students from New Zealand form a spontaneous protective escort as His Majesty's entourage proceeds to the Royal Kava Circle. To the strains of E Otua Mafi Mafi Tonga's national anthem, the royal family joins representatives of the governor of Hawaii and other state and local dignitaries. Motu'apuaka, the king's ceremonial mouthpiece, begins the proceedings with step-by-step instructions to the students in order that they might perform with correctness and grace. He uses stylized expressions of gratitude for each emblem of the ceremony presented to the king, drawing each expression out in elaborate emphasis of thanks. Motu'apuaka orders an inspection of each of the gifts to ensure the quality and worthiness of each item. First, the 4 Kava plants, symbols of Tongan solidarity. And then the 9 ceremonial pigs, whose size symbolizes those gifts most appropriate for a king. In an ancient gesture, the students lift each pig off the ground to show that no weapons are concealed beneath the food offerings. This gesture is received with a chorus of acknowledgement from the circle of chiefs, a symbol of reconciliation inherent in the Kava ceremony itself. The students' participation is an historic event and approached with much anxiety on the part of the performers. Small errors are corrected by Motu'apuaka throughout as the young men and women learn their culture, literally at the feet of their king. In this traditional ceremony, a woman always presents an offering of fine mats and tapa cloth to the king. This gift represents the highest quality of Tongan wealth and social values and occupies a place of preeminent importance in the circle. At the same time, it honors the place of women within the ceremonies of Tongan society and acknowledges them as keepers of the all-important cultural knowledge of mat and tapa making. Mats are not only useful objects of everyday life, they are symbolic of the genealogies and history of the culture and kingdom, and convey the exactness and dignity of the people's covenant with their king. Motu'apuaka orders the preparation of the kava, the symbol of Tongan unity and strength. Kava is used ceremonially throughout Polynesia. Anciently, pounded or chewed, kava root mixed with water and drunk in a circle of chiefs would validate a marriage, ratify a treaty between opposing clans, reconcile a family, or confirm a chiefly title. The young students perform each part of the ceremony with diligence, even to the point of gracefully imitating the stylized movements of the laka-laka dance in the cutting of the kava plant. In Tongan legend, a poor couple having no gift for their king sacrificed their only child, a daughter, in his honor. From her burial place grew two plants, the sweet sugar cane and the bitter kava, and even today these bittersweet offerings are representative of the people's total devotion to and covenant with their king. The kava plant has been divided into three parts. The central roots, or the royal part of the plant, is brought to be pounded for the king's kava drink. The two outer portions are brought forward as gifts to each of the two talking chiefs, Motuapuaka and Taakapu.
When the two highest ranking chiefs, Motuapuaka and Taakapu, arrive, one of the concerns is to share with the people of the Polynesian cultural centers the ceremony itself by having Fasitobo, one of our cultural leaders in the Polynesian cultural centers, to be in the position of perhaps one of the most important person in the Kava circle. That is the man that mixes the Kava, is himself. And then, of course, behind him and next to him, the group of students from BYU that are also part of the team of the Polynesian cultural centers. So the highest monarch of Polynesia, or the only monarch of Polynesia, accepted fully the participations of these students from BYU and the Polynesian cultural centers in the most sacred of the meetings and the ceremony, and being themselves the one that present and portray their cultures to the rest of the public. So right there is a strong validation of the authenticity of this event, not only here in the center, but the entire Pacific.
Kingdom of Tonga. He koe heke nai mahene langa. I he api ko uo lewa mo watu rowa. I he kolo kakala. Uo langa. I he ahon. I he kolo Polynesian. I he otu motu ko waihi. Fakapo. He mai moa tupu lagi. Pore ai. Walau kau anga o Tonga kotoa. Kau noa I ai. Ai motu a muri fia Tonga o ku whakahoha ani. Whakawhetai. Ki he tai ha mai. He whakawhinanga loa. A he lalo e paki. Ke whakalekesi pēr mo pani. Hatoi mo tu a muri fia Tonga e taha. Ke whakangafi. Kua matoko ua. O lava ke mawhakawhengai. ua whakamoni eni. Ai ufi lei ko ia I Tonga o ui, ko ufi lei fi ufi. Ko whai waola ia mo Mafifakapotu.
Mari. Mari.
Ko e o mātua, Mori, ka fie Tonga.
Following the oration, the students present the largest pig before the king to be carved up at the king's request and distributed to the chiefs in the royal circle. Each portion is called a fono. The ritual Kava, Telanisi Ha'amango, must divide the pig deftly without breaking a bone. Motu'apuaka will invite relatives of those in the circle to actually enter the circle and claim their fono. But first, the king's portion, or fono, will be accepted in His Majesty's behalf by Elder John H. Groberg, a general authority of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and close personal friend of the royal family. The time has come for the king now to receive his kava drink. Motu'apuaka gives the order. Each member of the circle will be served his cup, the symbol of loyalty and duty, or fatongia, to country and king. Takapu receives his cup, as does the Honourable Whakawhanua, noble and governor of the Ha'apai group of islands in Tonga. When Lester Moore is presented his cup of kava, he will drink it as a new chief, Mafifakapotu, respected guardian of culture in the distant place.
Mafifakapotu, koe nai whonua, moe whatongia, moe whalala kakato, ai hau mohono whare, moe hou eikio Tonga kia te koe. Ke mau ia he ahoni, koe whakamanatu, koe whakamau. Hange koe malanga maari ne ta whanong ki ai ane nai, a ho o konga Tonga. Whakatawanga ke tauhi kakai, o whiunga mo hingoa, mo whatongia ko atu kia te koe, he hoa tāni, tua whātu.
Thus, for the Tongan people, the royal kava ceremony has been a time of communion with their king and a recommitment to the fundamental values that bind the Tongan society together: order, respect for authority, devotion to duty, and to community and family solidarity.
Manase mo whanau ako. Tō whatongia poto he ahoni. Lava lere whatongia. Lava e aho Mafifakapotu. Malo obito. Hikedoa.
The Kava ceremony completed, the entertainment for the king begins.
Oku tau haka, ihe langi kua tau. Ihe koloa kua whakakakato, ihe ahon.
His Majesty and the royal family have a chance now to meet the press and other invited dignitaries before the grand feast, voluntarily prepared by the Tongan community. The food gifts to His Majesty include a massive table or pola of 100 suckling pigs, 100 crabs, 100 lobsters, 100 chickens, and 100 of every prepared dish.
O kui kai te yaha ka whaaki ki tōno no wai hama whai whai ke hau. He kumo whakakakato. Me he pangai o taupa whakawa. O awe ki he pangai o taupa.
Your Majesties, it's an honor and a privilege to stand before you today and to represent our chairman, Elder Dallin H. Oaks, and Elder Joseph B. Worthland of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. We are honored to give a token of our appreciation for what you have done for us this day.
Mafifakapotu and the island peoples of the Polynesian Cultural Center honor His Majesty with modest, handcrafted gifts, which are symbolic of the admiration and esteem all Polynesian groups have for Tonga's royal family. His Majesty the King is linked by blood relationships to the island nations of Samoa, Fiji, and Tahiti, and by shared culture to the other groups throughout Polynesia. Here, women from Fiji bring highly prized mats and tapa cloth. Tahitian women bring fine cloth and shell jewelry. Gift giving is important in every aspect of the Tongan society. Tongans believe it to be essential to the principle of Taufa'ahau, maintaining good relations. For a Tongan, one's wealth is often measured in what you give away, not in what you keep for yourself. Tongan students of BYU Hawaii present a fine fihu mat and a tapa cloth 8 feet wide and 100 feet long. After the formal presentations, the giving continues in spontaneous rewards of money to the dancers. This is known as FAKAPANGAI. FAKAPANGAI on this occasion is inspired by love for their royal majesties and, of course, the appreciation of the crowd.
The Tongan, we all have the same feeling. No matter where you are, if you here, you have your Royal Majesty will be here among us. We keep everything we have. Whatever we have, food, little money, medding, tapa, everything we have, we give. That is our custom.
Isa, he aho e langa fo'ou, aho whakahistoria, e tū o lau I kuonga, ko honu mahu inga, o kutai whaalaua.
The celebration moves to a grand crescendo as Tongan and other students perform the Ma'ulu'ulu dance. Many of these Tongan students are not connected to their homeland, having been raised in Hawaii and U.S. mainland, but they identify profoundly with their culture.
I've always believed that the strength in a particular culture is how it can adjust to changing times. And I think that the Tongan culture is already changing with the Tongan people. I think it's very wrong to get people to adjust to a thing, to a culture. A culture will only survive if it adjusts to cater for the needs of its people. Polynesian culture is alive, and I think that's a very important thing. I think it also makes young Polynesians gravitate towards it because it shows that culture can be enjoyed. You know, it's not just a bookish thing, it's lived every day. But I think the other thing that we have to keep intact is to get the young Tongans overseas to learn Tongan, the Tongan language. I think language is a very important key to a culture, to its life. I think the Tongan culture is one of the most resilient cultures. And it has a great potential if we can adjust it to suit Tongan people.
Ko ta fogina he aho. Ko ne toki hoko anai me pehe I fono Tupou I to. O te kia he ilo ki tua taimi. Ka te kia ke hoko ha mea pehe I tonga. Ke haelia Tupou o whai ha pongi ki ngoa I ha fono muni. O hange ko ia ku hoko e aho.
I really enjoy myself. I look forward for the opportunity, especially to identify with the laka-laka. I think it's a skill and art that I like to do very well in. Every time I begin a laka-laka, I feel like I'm being elevated to an almost altered state of consciousness, in that I believe it's a high form of entertainment for myself. Not only in terms of the dancing and the singing, but in terms of the good things about Tongan, sharing, loving, brotherhood.
O whaha kia, atu tātonga lahi o nau whai, ai ngahi mea tokoni, moi fia, laka, maulu ulu, ai ngahi kauta siasi keke, o nau hange pe ka sesi me taha i haon.
Foto he ahone historia fo o Tonga. Ko hiki mai a Tonga tu i Hawaii. Pe e he kuwakai koe a kume ku fia koe a ni. Hange ka te au ko i kuna e Tupou wha a Hawaii. He koe ni ko whai hono nau i Hawaii ni.
His Majesty comments on the importance of the Polynesian Cultural Center.
It enables, young Tongans and Maoris and Samoans and so on to know each other better. They don't have the opportunities that I have to travel and meet leaders and do things. So it's a very good thing. And I think it enriches, it's a principle that applies to people generally. If you learn to speak a foreign language and so on, it opens up a whole culture. You like to eat their food and see their dancing and understand and sympathize with their identities, separate identities. I think it's generally speaking, it's a good thing to know other people better, because you appreciate them more.
Every Tongan grows up believing in his heart that Tonga is the best of all possible worlds. As this day ends, the generosity of spirit which unifies Tongans everywhere has embraced a world of many different cultures in a new unity, genuine love, and a shared respect for each other. In this manner, the title Mafifakapotu is bestowed in a center far from the homeland, yet close to a king's heart. By it, His Majesty leaves part of his duty, the charge that all men come together in freedom, spirit, cultural respect, and sharing. For it is these values which typify the reign of Taufa'ahau Tupou IV, both in the Kingdom of Tonga and among all peoples of the Pacific.
Koe lataanga ia oi sola moi vulangi. Pea koe whakamau lutaanga ia. O e tau moto mo ui aki. Koe o tua mo Tonga ko hoku to whia.